Our service is about to begin for Margaret B. Lurie. Officiating our service today will be Rabbi Yaakov Dvorin and Rabbi Lizzie Heidemann from Mishkan, Chicago. Rabbis.
Before we begin the formal portion of the service, we start with three short excerpts from text from Scripture. In each case, I will begin first with the original Hebrew and follow it up with the English translation. First being from the book of Yeshayahu, from the book of Isaiah. Kol omer kra v'amar ma ekra, kol basar chatzir v'chol chasto ketzitza sedeb. Yavesh chatzir davel tzitz ki ruach Adonai nashva bo. Achein chatzir ha'am, yavesh chatzir navel tzitz udvar lohenu yakum liolam. A voice says, cry out, and I say, what shall I cry? All flesh is grass, and all its beauty is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades when a wind of the Lord blows upon it. Surely the people are grass. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God shall endure forevermore. From the book of Tehillim, the book of Psalms. Kirachem av al banim richem Adonai al yureav, ki hu yada yitzreinu zachor ki afar anachnu. Enosh kechatzir yamav ketzitza sedekein yatzitz, ki ruach avrabo ve'einenu, v'lo yakirenu od mekomo. V'chesed Adonai mi'olam v'adolam al yureav, v'tzidkaso livnei vanim. Tender as parents are with their children, the Lord is merciful with his worshipers. He knows how we are fashioned. He remembers that we are but dust. The days of human beings are as grass. We flourish as flowers in the field. The wind passes over it, and it is gone, and no one can recognize from where it grew. But the Lord's compassion for his worshipers, his righteousness to children's children remain age after age unchanging. And once again, from the book of Yeshayahu, the book of Isaiah, Al tira ki imcha ani, al tishta ki ani Elohecha, im atzticha af azarticha, af temachticha b'min sidki. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will sustain you through my power. Family and friends, we gather here together to pay final tribute and bid farewell to the departed soul of Margaret Lurie. Miriam Bat Gittel, with the age of 81, was called to her eternal resting place in the world to come this past Saturday, January 3rd, the 15th day in the Hebrew month of Tevet. As many believe, as do I, there's nothing as genuine, sincere as hearing vivid, sincere recollections from those who know a special person best. With that, we'll hear from Margaret's family members, but we begin first with the family rabbi, with Rabbi Lizzie.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Dvorin. It means so much to the Lurie family that you're all here this morning. Thank you for being here from across this city, from across this country, from Florida to Los Angeles and everywhere in between, and from across the world. Lloyd is in newly from Israel just to be here to pay tribute to Margaret. Welcome to elected officials. Welcome to Mayor Biss, who's here, because Margaret's reach and relationships were vast. I want to ask that we say the traditional words of closure and consolation our tradition gives us at this time. And you can repeat after me. Baruch, Dayan, Ha'emet. Blessed is the true judge. God gives us life, and God takes it back just as mysteriously, and we bless the source of life even in these profound moments of loss. Margaret Berman Lurie's loss is profound. It is powerful. Her death leaves a gaping absence in the world where her life force was felt. There's a paradigm, a sort of archetype in Jewish literature of the Eshet Chayil, a woman who is, they call her a woman of valor. It translates to a woman of strength, of power, but not given by physical strength per se, but by having many sides to her, having a motivation and an industriousness, a striving toward excellence, a belief that the world around her can be better, and that starting in concentric circles with her family, she can change the world. And Margaret was an Eshet Chayil. She was a strong and powerful woman in so many senses. She was an activist, a wife, a mother, a friend, a bubby, an educator, a musician, a Jew, a visionary, a philanthropist, a linguist, a reader, a community builder. Right up till the end, she was powerful. Paul, Ander, Rachel, Dan, Matt, each one of you had your own very specific and special relationships with your mom and with your wife and with your grandma and with your mother-in-law. But if you're here in this room, every single person here, I would imagine, had your own very specific and special relationship, in some cases, decades and decades long with Margaret Lurie. And I know all of our hearts mourn along with the family. I was honored to get to know Margaret over the past decade as she was an active member of our Jewish community, Mishkan. And I've known her and studied Torah with her, and I've taught Torah in her house, and I've heard her play piano, and I've had more than one spicy conversation with her about controversial topics in which we each walked out with a healthy respect for the intellect of the other. On one particular visit to her house, she was appalled to learn that I did not own a SodaStream, and a week later, one showed up on my doorstep, along with a few flavor cartridges. She was really thoughtful. She could be really generous. And mostly, and most importantly, she wanted to shape the world in a way that she wanted to live in and pass on to future generations. If something wasn't the way she thought it should be or could be, she wanted to make it right. She was born and raised here in Chicago with her brother Larry, may his memory be a blessing, who died earlier this year. She went to Von Steuben High School. She went to the University of Michigan, where she met her life partner and Ezer Kenegdo, equal opposite, Paul. They returned to Chicago in the mid-60s so that she could get her master's degree at the University of Chicago in education. And she taught for a while, but they moved into the next phase of their lives together, moving to Evanston and creating and expanding their family. And as Ander and Rachel and Daniel and Matt entered the world, they also entered the world of Margaret's high expectations. She was the niece of Admiral Chaim Rickover, the famed founder of the U.S. Nuclear Navy, the highest-ranking Jewish official in the U.S. Navy, and an early mentor to her. And she believed that excellence was imperative. She asked it of herself and of everyone around her. She believed that achievement, especially educational achievement, was the ticket not to status per se, but to making a difference, to participating in democracy, to creating opportunities for other people to access the benefits of our country, and to contributing meaningfully to our city and our nation and our world. And she practiced that value in her own life too, whether by sitting for 2.5 decades on the board of ETHS, most of them as president, which was an elected position that she had to run for and win, or more recently being on the board of the Evanston Public Library, a mayoral appointment. Earlier in her life, she and Paul were co-founders of the Jewish Reconstructionist Congregation, a now nationally known synagogue here in Evanston, as well as they created a small chavurah, a values-based Jewish gathering of families. Some of you are here from that chavurah today that still continues to meet for holidays and meals. You may have known her from any of these endeavors, or maybe from the Yiddish educational project she was involved with, or maybe from the book group, or maybe through Torah study, or maybe her lifelong involvement in reproductive rights, or maybe you were just lucky enough to be her friend, somebody she gossiped with and shared the ups and downs of life with loyalty and humor. Or maybe you just knew her from half a century of helping create the liberal, inclusive Evanston that I just always assumed was this way, and actually learned throughout our conversations, it was not. It was not. But people like Margaret and Paul helped make it this way through shaping it with their vision, with their values of access to education and literacy for all, feminism, and participation in local government. For all of what appeared to be outward signs of success and influence for her family, Margaret's life was not easy. As a child, she was bedridden with rheumatic fever, and as an adult, she struggled with symptoms of muscular sclerosis, diagnosed in her 40s. And she navigated the world much of the time in a wheelchair over the past decade. She and Paul endured and supported each other through health challenges, harrowing health challenges, and recoveries over the years. Margaret was tenacious and fierce. And woe be it to anyone who doubted the ability to recover of anyone she loved. Margaret never ceased to be consumed with concerns, anxieties, hopes, and dreams for her children and her grandchildren. She shaped them, and they knew her like no one else did. And so in a moment, we will hear from them. Margaret Lurie, it was an honor to know you. You are the quintessential Eshet Chayil, woman of power, valor, strength, a multi-talented, multifaceted powerhouse of a life force of a woman. And for this and for so much more, you will be remembered, and your memory will be a blessing. So Dan, you want to start us off?
All right, I'll try to get through this. Thank you, Lizzie. That was beautiful. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, as is the tradition, to honor my mom and to be with my family. As Lizzie mentioned, I see a lot of you from the neighborhood, but also from my mother's life, my parents' life. Boyd, thank you for schlepping in and schlepping back. Before I address my mom's life, I want to give a special note of gratitude. It helps. To my brother. I should have pre-cried. It would have been smart. A special note of gratitude to my brother Alexander, who both as a son, of course, but also as a doctor. Oh, thanks, babe. Moved heaven and earth to give my mom the best medical care in the world at the end of her life. There are stories, definitely for another time, but my dad and siblings all witnessed that care and love, and my mom did in her own way too. So thank you, Ander. All right. I've been thinking about how to best describe my mom's life for a long time, both because of my mom's health challenges that Lizzie mentioned, and that I'll speak to, many of you knew, that became acute over the past few months as her body failed, but also because she's someone who I've thought about, grappled with, and analyzed in my own way for my entire life. She was and will remain a constant for me. I see a lot of you today who are part of my mom's more public-facing life and knew her in those ways. So I'm going to use my time today, to speak about my own more intimate relationship with her in all of its complexity, or most of its complexity. My mom and dad gave me a great childhood. Now, that's not to say I was coddled or that it was all fun and games, But my mom approached parenting with the long game in mind. Will my children contribute to society? Will they be good people and good citizens? Will they care for each other and for other people? Will they carry on our traditions? And when the time comes, will they care for me, for her, and each other? That is a tough perspective to grasp and appreciate as a kid, but I know I'm a better person because she parented this way. So that meant wonderful vacations, adventures, great gifts, and no material want. Our Door County life alone has been a source of such joy for me and my siblings. She and my dad worked really, really hard and wanted their kids to benefit from that work and effort. I think often of the things my parents did for me and my siblings that they did just to make us happy and expand our worlds. My mom and dad enabled their kids to take risks and make mistakes, knowing they were there for us no matter what. They have made it clear throughout our lives and into adulthood that our happiness and growth was their priority. We were and are very fortunate. But to my mom, that same focus also meant that her relentless demand for excellence Is that right? It's fine, okay. That her relentless demand for excellence wasn't something that could wait or would blossom on its own accord. We were descendants of Hyman Rickover and had a legacy to uphold. She had kids, so they would do something with their lives, and our childhoods were where that was forged. She worried about me in a way that I understood later as an expression of love. To her, the highest compliment was to expect more, because she only expected more of those she thought could meet her standards. She understood the stakes. Being her son meant not just being content and cared for, but instilled with values and an approach to living that was bigger than us as individuals. She instilled in me a real identity that connects us as a family. That means you represent the family and benefit from the family's work, and you have to uphold your end of the bargain. That could at times be an austere kind of love, but even at an early age, I knew it was love. When I got older, my mom would often apologize to me for the way she parented me. She would say she knew she was tough on me, but she did the best she could. She would say this so often that I came to see, in fact, what I knew she was doing. She was saying, now that I see you're going to be okay in the grand scheme of things, I can admit I could have done things differently, even if I didn't really know how. She didn't really know how. And she was also saying clearly, if not directly, I'm proud of you. As I got older, I came to see my parents' relationship and marriage as a remarkable thing. As many of you know, they were not shy about showing their emotions in full, no matter what the setting. They did not put on a performance, sometimes much to my chagrin. Romantic love in one moment and arguing loudly in the next, showering each other with adoration and taking jabs at each other just as frequently. But they had a deep and profound respect for each other as individuals and as parents, and an understanding of each other's roles in their own lives and in the family's life that I understood intuitively. That only intensified and strengthened as they got older, and my dad became my mom's biggest advocate and cheerleader and caregiver as she navigated her MS. They didn't just make their marriage work, they changed it, improved it, adapted to the many, many obstacles that life threw their way, but never wavered in their commitment to each other. And while my relationship with Liz is very different, at its core, Liz and I are partners in life like my mom and dad were. I'm grateful that my mom got to see my relationship with Liz is rooted in that, modeled after her relationship with my dad. My dad is the optimist, the dreamer, the embracer of any new challenge, and the person always game to try something new. My mom, as you all know, was darker, more fatalistic, the organizer, the one who made sure that things got done, because she had little faith that the world would deliver for her. But because of that, she was also the one with the biting sense of humor and an appreciation for comedians, musicians, and writers who also saw the darkness as much as the light. I like to think that I have both of these qualities in me, and I'm grateful to my mom for it. My mom's public life had a profound effect on me. I vividly remember when she decided to run for the Evanston Township School Board and how fun, energizing, and important that work was for her. She loved campaigning, she loved the networking, the gossiping, and the governing. And I saw the joy she took from working with ambitious, committed public servants. Her work as a public official and her love of cultivating community had a deep impact on me. She never sat me down and lectured me about it. She just made sure I was there to see it all and learn what it meant to belong to something bigger than yourself. She showed me that if you want to change something, get your hands dirty and make it so, and that there's no substitute for experience. I'm grateful for that. And as I evolved in my personal life and professional life, she often struggled to understand my life choices and worried about me, which is a nice way of saying she thought I was often a fool, as she'd like to say, and was not shy about stating that opinion. How do you graduate college without knowing what you're going to do with your life? Why would you ever leave your law firm job? Who is this guy you think can be the next senator, and why are you spending so much free time on him? Why would you date someone long distance without being married? I often joke to her that I have been in pursuit of a career and life that my parents cannot explain to their friends, and that drove her nuts, because she wanted nothing more than to excel. But I think she also saw that even if at first she didn't quite get it, I was taking her legacy forward, and she saw that I cared what she thought. So at each life turn, I would try to remind her, I'm being the person you raised me to be. The hardest thing for her was to accept that. But when she finally did, she came to a place that brought her joy, relief, and comfort as she watched her kids carry forward. I'd like to speak for a minute about my wife, Liz, and her relationship with my mom. Without a doubt, my mom held that the best thing that ever happened to me was meeting and marrying Liz. She didn't quite know what to make of Liz when she first met her, and Liz similarly had lots of questions about my mom. My mom was not subtle about her skepticism that anyone was good enough for her son. But when she met Liz's mom, Alice, my mom knew Liz was the one. Alice was tough as nails. I think many of you knew her, Alice Kalick, Liz's mom. She was tough as nails, loved food, kept lists like my mom did of those who wronged her, loved to gossip, and had a group of feisty friends. And Alice loved her kids and loved her husband, Dan, like my mom did. My mom saw Liz was of good stock and quickly came to adore her. And then just could not understand why we waited so long to get married. My mom was so grateful for her own relationship with Liz, and she felt real pride and joy in the marriage Liz and I have created, and in seeing her grandkids, Irene and Isaac, grow and blossom. At the end of my mom's life, she knew she had done well as a mother and community leader. She, of course, was never satisfied and could not accept well enough, but she had that small smile and twinkle in her eye when she spent time with Irene and Isaac, or when Liz would bring her flowers, or when she got to quell over some family development or news. She had no unfinished business. She knew Isaac and Irene were in good hands and were going to make the world a better place and not accept the current state of national politics, to speak euphemistically. She knew her kids were loved by their partners and were doing important work in their careers. She knew my dad was going to be cared for. She knew the family would continue taking care of each other and honoring her as part of her ancestors' legacy. She was such a huge part of my life. Well, thank you, babe. Such a huge part of my life while I was alive. And now she will be a new kind of constant through my memory of her and the stories I tell my kids about her. I will live and impart her and my dad's values and truly appreciate her deep impact on the broader world that we will continue to see. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel. This is my partner, Jamie. Thank you all so much for coming and honoring my mother's life. I wanted to share a story about my mom that I think perfectly captures her spirit, her fire, and her fearless and generous heart. About 15 years ago, I made a new friend named Charlie, who's here with us today. Charlie is an all-around wonderful person and also happens to play the tuba professionally. I knew my parents would be interested in meeting my new friend, who is Jewish, a classical musician, and also a member of the orchestra of the Peninsula Music Summer Festival in Door County, Wisconsin, a classical music festival that my parents have been attending and loving for decades. This friendship introduction was a hit. My mom was thrilled that every time we went to the festival, we got to meet some of the orchestra members and discuss the music with true orchestra insiders. She loved pointing out where Charlie was in the orchestra. He was our very own Door County celebrity friend. And from then on, my mom pretty much adopted Charlie and decided that he needed to join our family at all Jewish holiday gatherings. As it happens, Charlie is also a member of Mishkan, a synagogue here in Chicago. Rabbi Lizzie is the chief rabbi that my parents and I love and support. A few years back, my mom was absolutely appalled to realize that Charlie was not blowing the shofar at high holiday services at Mishkan, and yet other non-professional tuba players were. How could it be that Mishkan did not know about Charlie's talents, and that Charlie had not volunteered them to Mishkan? So she emailed the rabbi and pretty much demanded that Charlie get an opportunity to blow the shofar, which he did end up doing with aplomb. Shortly after that first high holiday season, the Mishkan staff sent out a lovely thank you to acknowledge all those who had participated in the services that year, including those who blew the shofar. And unfortunately, there was just an oversight, and Charlie's name was mistakenly left off the list. Well, my mother immediately fired off an email to the Mishkan staff, which I have here. And she said, our daughter's good friend, Charlie Shookit, was one of the shofar blowers and was not listed in your acknowledgments. He is a professional tuba player and has blown the shofar for 2 years. In addition, he is an usher. Somehow, you should thank him publicly. Thanks, Margaret. This was my mother, direct and to the point about things that mattered to her. No BS and no tiptoeing around, a champion for those who might be a little shy or modest or hesitant to toot their own horn. Incidentally, Charlie later told me, because I was really embarrassed that my mother did that, Charlie later told me that he actually appreciated that my mom noticed the administrative oversight, that he had felt a little hurt, and that it felt good to be acknowledged and that the mistake was corrected. And he joked in an email that I just found that he wanted my mom to be his agent. I also just wanted to talk briefly about the role of music in my mom's life in some other ways. Some of you know about her beloved music camp Interlaken that she attended as a child, and the fact that she played piano for all 4 of our 5th grade plays at Lincoln School, and her participation in a trio of clarinet and cello with Wayne Benjamin and Billy Cottle. More recently, there were the countless services at Mishkan, where I sat next to my mother, and she joyfully sang along with the choir, often turning to me in astonishment to say, "Wasn't that beautiful? Aren't they amazing?" There was last summer when my partner Jamie and I took her to see Barry Manilow, one of her favorites. And my mother was smiling and waving her glow stick in time to I Can't Smile Without You. And most recently of all, only a couple of months ago, Jamie and I took her to see The Sound of Music play downtown with a fancy steak dinner beforehand and her beloved creamed spinach. She and I sang along to every word and smiled together about the amazing talent on stage and the beautiful familiar songs. It was a true night on the town and a wonderful memory for us. May her memory be a blessing for us all.
Really nice Kleenex, just discreetly hidden here so you guys can't see it. Okay. I'm Matt, the youngest, and this is my girlfriend Emily. This is not the first time I'll struggle to describe my mother. I'll be frank, which I know she would appreciate. She was at times critical, resentful, and even petty. And yet also fiercely protective, ferociously empathetic, and hysterically funny. She was a pragmatist who was often unreasonable. Complex doesn't even begin to spell it. Margie B., as college friends called her, was a famously voracious reader. Most childhood evenings, I would come into the bedroom after she got home from work, mind you, to find her propped up in bed with 2 cats at her feet, a stack of New Yorkers by her side, the day's Chicago Tribune and New York Times in her lap, and 2 library books by her side that she would be finishing within the week. Although she relented a little in her later years, she could never get over why anyone insisted on purchasing books when they were just sitting there at the library for free. It was this setting, books, cats, children asking for homework help, small, ineffable updates from friends on the phone, that was her happy place. She came to love reading, as my siblings have talked about, in part through a childhood year of recovery, waiting out the rheumatic fever, then untreatable, that would damage her heart and scar her for her full 81 years. When she wasn't being doted on by her Yiddish-speaking roommate, her grandmother Bubby, she poured through the books from her local library and found in them a ready-made gateway to other worlds, other cultures, and other relationships. Her love of books was about more than just stories. It was a love of language itself. She loved to gab, to crack jokes, to hear her children find their way into language. One of her most recent notes on her phone that we discovered while she was in the hospital is a catalog of her favorite malapropisms from a young Daniel Lurie. For those that don't know that word, which I sort of knew but had to look up, a malapropism is the incorrect use of a word in place of a word with a similar sound, either unintentionally or for comedic effect, resulting in a nonsensical, often humorous utterance. Her top examples from Dan were magazine, what time is, and refrigerator. By the same token, especially as we got older, misusing words was verboten, and we were all frequently corrected mid-sentence and reminded that there was a correct and incorrect way to say things. One of her biggest pet peeves that I frequently triggered, farther refers to physical distance, further refers to figurative distance. I'm just gonna share this because I think she would enjoy. By example, in order to ensure a good grade on the paper, he asked for further books he could reference, even though it meant driving to a library farther away to pick them up. Okay, capiche? All right. So Mom, using words correctly was how you showed that you valued the rhythms and values of the society in which you lived. Adjacent to her love of language was her love of music. Her summers at Interlochen Arts Camp, where Arthur Miller taught theater alongside his then-wife Marilyn Monroe, were frequently mentioned as the happiest of her life. The practice of music was both a vehicle for excellence, but also along the way, something that held supernatural emotional power for her. A few choice bars from Les Preludes, which is the Interlochen Camp closing song by Franz Liszt, or My Funny Valentine, could trigger a torrent of tears. She would eventually sacrifice a lot of the joy she had playing to allow more time for her children, including me, to find our own way into the language of music. While it was not what defined her, it would not be fair to her story if we looked away from her Sisyphean struggle against multiple sclerosis, which colored so much of her daily life in her last decades. She tried countless medicines and therapies, homeopathic and otherwise, but could not stop the endless spasms. This battle sapped her formidable energy, and as much as we tried to sway her, I don't think she ever saw a silver lining to it. So, it was stubbornness that meant there would still be new adventures in Miami Beach and Door County, bike rides with Paul on their inimitable tandem recumbent bike, exercise sessions on the new step, travels with Bonnie and Roger, and when her eyes would not cooperate, reading books giving way to audiobooks. She found a way to read literally no matter what her body could tolerate. Her empathy for the disabled and bitterness towards those who look down on them, already heightened from years of advocating for Paul, took on new dimensions. I want her to know that MS was not what killed her. And as she said in one of her last words to me, she won. Thank you all for being here from all over the world. They don't make them like Margie B anymore. We love you, Boobala.
Thank you all for being here. I wanted to just springboard off of what Rabbi Lizzie mentioned, something that my mother, like a stone in a pond that emanates concentric circles out, like she wanted to radiate this energy to make the world a better place. And I just want to focus on that one point. What exactly was that energy? So there's a mitzvah in the Torah of kibbud av v'em, which is honoring one's father and mother. It's like one of the most important interpersonal mitzvahs. And one of the best ways to do this, to honor your parents, is to honor the people that your parents honored. And anyone who knew my mother, that person was Hyman G. Rickover, Admiral Hyman G. Rickover, as was mentioned. But I don't think that, for those of you who knew her like way back, I have this theory that I don't think it started that way. I think that it started with her father, Irving Berman, who she loved so much, and unfortunately, he died at an early age when I was 6 months old. And throughout her life, whenever she would mention Irving Berman, her father, she would cry and say, "Ander, I'm so sad that you never got to meet him. He was going to be the best grandfather to you. He was going to raise you. He was going to guide you. He was so wonderful, my father." Grandpa Tabby, that was her, that was like the idol in her life. And I think when he died, she was probably looking for a father figure, and I think Hyman Rickover, her uncle on her mother's side, sort of took over that role because she was close to him. He used to visit all the time. I remember Admiral Rickover coming to my grandmother's house on multiple occasions and giving us inspiration in our schoolwork and reading and all that stuff. But I think he became like her new father figure. And I think after that, it became her mission in life to transmit HGR's legacy to her family, to her children and her children's children. And I just want to speak exactly what that was. What was that legacy that she was so desperately trying to transmit? I mean, if you came to our family dinner table, we had hundreds of dinners and meetings with her. Almost every conversation involved HGR to some degree. Like, make sure you know about HGR and make sure my children know about HGR. She was just obsessed with transmitting his legacy. So what was his legacy? Well, he, as you all know, he was the father of the nuclear navy. But I think if you break it down, you could break down his methodology into a few main points. The first main thing of HGR in his thinking about problems was depth, avoiding superficiality and casualness, really going deep into every problem, understanding it from different angles. In fact, there's a story where there was a problem with one of the nuclear submarines that was an emergency, and they called the White House, and they assembled emergently a team of engineers that put together a 50-page report on how to solve this particular problem on the submarine. And then it wasn't working, there was a lot of turmoil, and they called him up in the middle of the night, HGR, and he calmly walked to his desk, pulled out his note cards, and picked up a note card that had the solution to that problem. Because of the depth of his analysis and of his problem solving, he always entertained every possible problem that could exist, because he looked at everything from every angle. And he really valued the preciousness of time. He was really strong on not wasting any time. And really, he was perseverance, I think, is another thing that he had. The Navy and a lot of politicians fiercely opposed his projects, and he persevered, and he just had this unwavering commitment to excellence that allowed him to build a nuclear navy. And I think that's really HGR's legacy. And just on a personal note, people on the surface, they look at me like, oh, like you were so good at math and science, and you went to an Ivy League college and graduated with a degree in physics, and then went on to a career in academic medicine, and you're this great physician. So everything, they view it as like, oh, everything must have been super easy and smooth sailing, but it wasn't. I had a lot of struggles during my schooling. Math and science were super hard for me, but my mother just was there at every turn, and she always just got me over the hump, whatever I needed, to help me with my homework, to push me. But what she was really doing was just embodying HGR's legacy, I think, and really trying to just infuse it into me, to push me towards excellence, even though things were hard. But I persevered, and I honestly could not have become what I've become without her. She really gave me so many opportunities. She was just there, all in, every step of the way. So I just want to say to her, if she's looking down in heaven, that you did it. You infused in myself and my children also HGR's legacy. We have received it. You've done a great job with that. And I'm so grateful that you infused that legacy in us.
And I just really appreciate it, and I just want to ask for forgiveness for anything that I did to hurt you in any way. Just ask for your forgiveness, but I'm so grateful for making me the man I am today, and for helping me to create my family. Thank you. So.
Thank you so much, Ander and Matt and Rachel and Dan. So many of you who are here also have Margaret stories from all of the realms of life in which you knew her. And so you are warmly invited to come to Shiva. They'll be opening up the home at 1 later this afternoon. And around 1:30, once everybody's had something to eat and gotten a chance to say hello, we'll be opening up the floor for people to share memories from all of the places that you knew Margaret. As the multifaceted, deeply involved person she was in so many realms of life. So I hope that you'll come. There's also Shiva information that Bill will share at the end of this service. Rabbi Dvorin, you want to take us home?
A quick word about the manner in which you all spoke. There's a wonderful, wonderful expression in Hebrew that says, Dvarim min halev nichnasim lalev. Those words, those expressions that come from one's heart enter the hearts of others. And for those of us who do not have the merit, the blessing, the privilege of knowing Margaret, you painted a picture, and it went from hearts to other hearts. And even with the sadness at loss, because that's what it is, I hope I'm not showing any insensitivity or disrespect, but there is the blessing of having somebody who was so extraordinary, so remarkable. And for those of us who did not have that blessing of familiarity, I am touched, and I'm sure everyone is, because those words and expressions came from your heart, and they touched the hearts of all of us. There should be no doubt that the unforgettable life of Margaret Lurie, Miriam Bat Gittel, will long be remembered and spoken about often with respect, appreciation, and admiration. We ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Almighty God, to send a measure of healing and comfort to Margaret's loving family members and friends and all those she touched, who will forever recall her with love and great devotion. This time I offer the Mizmor LeDavid, that's the 23rd Psalm, which I will chant in the Hebrew, follow it up with the English translation. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echzor, binos teshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchos yinahaleni. Nafshi yishovev, nafshi yishovev, yancheni b'maglei tzedek, oy leman shemo. Gam ki elech begeit salmoves lo irara ki ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha Shivtecha umishantecha Hema yenachamuni Taroch lefonai shulchan Taroch lefonai shulchan Taroch lefonai shulchan neged soreroi. Dishantov Hashem en roshi, Dishantov Hashem en roshi, Dishantov Hashem en roshi, Kosi revayom. Ach tov v'chesed, Yirdefuni kol yimei chayoy, Vishavti beveis Adonai, Vishavti beveis Hashem, Liorech Yamim. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He has me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He guides me on paths of righteousness. He revives my soul for the sake of his glory. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you're with me. Your staff and your rod comfort me. You set a table in sight of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall abide in the house of the Lord forevermore. This time we'll conclude with the final prayer, the Kelmalei Rachamim, which is thought of as a memorial prayer, appropriately so. It is a short but poignant prayer which asks with humility and humbleness of heart that Almighty God judge Margaret's soul to be good and pure and to permit her into the highest levels of heaven. If it is not a hardship, I would ask you to please rise. El Molei Rachamim, Shochem Bamromim, Hametzei Menucha Nechona Tachas Kanfei Ashchina, B'malos Kedoshim U'Tahorim Kazorakim Masirim, Es Nishmas Miriam Baskittel Shocha Lolama, Began Eden Tehei Menucha Sa, Hana Bal Rachamim, Astireha b'seser knafecha leolamim, utzor b'tzorchaim es nishmaso, Adonai nachlasa, v'sanuach b'shalom amishkava, v'nomar, Amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, to the soul of Margaret Lurie, Miriam Bat Gittel, who has gone to her eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember all the worthy and the righteous deeds she performed here in the land of the living. May her soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life. The Lord is her portion. May she rest in peace. And together we say, Amen.
This concludes our service here in the chapel. The interment will take place immediately at the family plots at West Lawn Cemetery, 7801 West Montrose Avenue in Norridge. Following the interment, the family will be sitting Shiva. The Shiva information is available on your folders. For those of you who are online, the information is available on our website. Family will be sitting today from 1 p.m. until 8 p.m. and tomorrow from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Lurie Residence, 641 Sheridan Square in Evanston. At 1:30 today, the floor will be open for memory sharing among friends and family and colleagues. Davening times will be Tuesday, 4:20, Mincha followed by Mariv. Wednesday, Shacharis at 8 a.m., Mincha and Mariv at 4:20. Thursday, Shacharis at 8 a.m., Mincha Mariv at 4:20. For those of you who are going to be going in procession today, and I'm going to ask you to please proceed your vehicles immediately so we may begin the procession to West Lawn Cemetery. Please make sure you obtain an orange funeral safety sticker. That sticker should be placed in the front passenger side of your windshield. We would also ask that you have your bright headlights on and hazard lights on at all times. For an additional measure of safety, our staff will be placing magnetic flags throughout the procession. As we drive in procession today, please drive as closely as safety permits to the vehicle in front of you. This is especially important as we process through the intersections. We want to avoid any large gaps or spaces. At this time, I'm going to ask everyone to rise. I'm going to ask the pallbearers to please step forward as we escort Mrs. Lurie and the family and the clergy from the chapel. Sir, yes, sir.